fine.
Let me find the list.
Yeah. Can you? Okay. Invited Don. Good.
Hello.
Hey, Don. We're just getting started.
Yep.
All right, here's the email you sent. So the first thing is, I don't see any connection from parts to kits and functions.
Yeah. So we do have that. Obviously, that's pretty fundamental. So on the kit admin page, when you select a kit, all of the equipment that's in that kit shows up in the grid below, where you can see it all there, and then there's a remove button to remove it, and a select equipment button to add more equipment to that kit. That's all on that one managed kits and functions page.
So let me pull that up.
Yeah, that's pretty important.
It's definitely very important, and it's. I've been working with the materials team, Radimus, and those guys. They're putting a little bit more. They've got a category and a subcategory to the equipment. That's also a very important piece that needs to be added to this site as well. That way that we know where it's coming from, and it has to do with the search engine that's on top of it.
Okay. So category, we should talk about that. Yeah, if we don't have that, then that's, I don't know.
How do you build a kit?
Well, in the piece that I looked at, I didn't see any of that.
So we have to know how.
All I had was a description. So my confusion comes from looking in the system and trying to understand what was going on, because like I said, there was only 4 fields in there. I saw a description and a kit, and that's all I had.
Yeah.
We have to have a way to build kits. We have to have a search engine around how someone finds a kit.
Right.
And this all has to be managed, and then we don't want to be able to amend a kit on the fly. When a kit is built, it gets locked because there's a reason for it.
It's history.
It's history.
It's happened.
And
it's installed. You can't change it.
And we use the kit to build a drawing to back it up, so we can not draw the thing over and over again, and we store it. So I guess I would like to see the process. If I got nothing, how do I start from nothing?
Well, I think what I want to do is I want to back up a little bit on this, and I think what we have to go through is kind of the basics of the system. And again, it's got to be built on the search engine, because the search engine, when you build a kit, that's what starts to build how you can find that kit later. When you build a function, that's what builds how you can find that function later. The whole concept of the system is to do it once. When you create a kit and a function, you're doing it once. You're reusing it for clients over and over and over again. And the whole concept of this thing is we're going to have probably, by the time we get this all up and running, 50,000 kits, and probably 100,000 or 50,000 functions and 100,000 kits. There's going to be
kits.
Yeah, there's just going to be a lot of kits assigned to the functions.
So it looks like we have all that already. So under the managed kit and functions in the admin screen, you can create a kit, attach it to a function, and at the bottom it shows you all the equipment that's in that kit. And you can add or remove if needed. And then, or you can create a function and add kits to that function.
Or make new ones.
How do the parts attach? Is there a parts database behind this that we attach to?
There is.
Yeah.
And so as a price would change in the parts database, the price would change in the kit.
Correct.
Okay.
Well, the cost would.
Yeah, cost, correct. That's fine, yeah.
Okay.
Is there, in this system, is there storage where we could associate a drawing with this kit? So
Yes, I believe we did that. I remember seeing a place to put drawings.
It's same thing in the parts part of it as well. We put a drawing part in
That's what I
that,
call it.
in that part.
I know we have on the dev list a upload documents by kit. And
I
now,
saw it in the search part. Maybe we haven't put it on the actual.
Because uploading pieces of it is good, but again,
I
That
think we
may-
only have it by part level right now.
that might become a problem because what we're trying to do is, there's two different parts to that drawing. There's a PDF and then there's an AutoCAD or Revit part with it as well, which is gonna be difficult to store.
Okay, yeah, right now we have it by part, so we would need to add files by kit.
yes,
Files kit and files by function.
Okay.
there's nothing for function. We don't have files by function. We have files by part and files by kit. Nothing under function.
okay.
So when you assign that function number, how do you find all of the stuff that goes with it?
The function is a generic of how something works, and you could have multiple kits attached to it,
That's
and the
right.
kit has the drawing based upon the part.
You're right.
So
Okay.
there's nothing, there's no storage needed under the function, just under the kit. So if you got it by part, that's great. By kit, great. So I guess, it looks like you've got a lot of stuff completed, okay? And you've gone down a path. Is there a way to show if I'm someone who's assigned to build kits and functions, or functions and kits, how I would build a function and then how I would build a kit? Can you walk me through that?
I can try. I have not done it before. I believe if you want to create a function, you just hit create new function,
Okay,
type in the name and the description. And because the description is all blank right now, Robert, when you sent us that raw data import, the description fields were blank. So we just imported them with blank. So that's why.
the function, the description fields were blank. Oh, so it didn't pull that piece of the database out because that had stuff in it.
Yeah, so when we go to import it live, we would need that information. So you don't have to retype it all.
Right.
Okay. So basically this is a green field. You don't have, so in our current system, we build attributes for a search engine, okay? And so if we've got, let's take an access control door. We've got attributes around the card reader, around if it's a single, double door, questions that you basically answer to drill down to find the kit.
Right. And that's a big piece of it.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
all.
that would be on here.
Well, also, there's an admin screen to manage the attributes and classes. So those we weren't able to fit them all onto that same manage kits and functions page. So there's a separate admin page.
Perfect. Well, that's good because it keeps it away from people that shouldn't play with it. That's a good.
Yeah.
Use the attributes, and then
So
There's one called manage classes.
what I would like to do is like go through this system starting from the beginning, one by page by page by page,
Right.
because if they took all of our raw data and built something around the raw data, this may be okay. It may just be we just don't know how it works. So
Well,
ignorance.
But this has gone a long way since I looked at it last week. What I looked at last week only had 4 fields in it, so I didn't see the rest of this.
Okay. So
And I don't know if you noticed, you mentioned the tree. The web version of the tree is here's the list. The more you pick, the more results you get.
And I think that system attribute one there might actually be a tree.
Oh,
Yeah, there you go.
it is, Jack. You can see the arrows next to it.
so this is new.
Yeah, so this, what you set up on that manage system attributes admin page, shows up here. It's all filtered down. So I think we're allowing it to go 4 levels deep, if I remember right. So the first couple there, it looks like they only go down 1 level there, but I think we're allowed them to be set up to be 4 levels deep on the tree view there.
Is there a reason just for 4 levels, just for real estate?
Yeah, we didn't want to make it infinite, so the developer's like, how many levels do I have to allow? And I think we were looking at the existing stuff. I don't know. We got the impression that the existing data had 4 levels. We could be wrong, and maybe it needs to go deeper than that. But I don't know.
Yeah, we've only used 4 levels so far.
Okay.
But
I think that's why we picked it. Is all. We could make it 5, but we just picked 4. So.
Okay.
I don't know how deep it can get before it's, more confusing than helpful or whatever, but.
Yeah, we just don't know what the future is going to bring. That's why we had it. I think we had it unlimited, but
Yeah.
we were going to run into a problem with real estate on the screen. Of how you can go.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we had to do that kind of separate pop-up for that tree view. We try to avoid those kind of things for mobile and, all those reasons, but we couldn't really think of a way to get it all to fit here without having kind of that pop-up. So, yeah, maybe we'll be able to fit more levels deep if we need them. But that's something we could adjust if we need to go more than 4.
Okay, so what's the ID system back behind this?
Yeah, so these are just, tables that fit, within the regular schema of the Sales Pilot application. So, kind of the base of the whole thing is the equipment table, that we've always had that has, and all the Sales Pilot tables have, identity column. So equipment ID, is an auto incrementing identity column. It's an integer.
Right.
And so it's unique all the time. And so we added a table called function, and we added a table called kit, and we added a table called function kit, and we added a table called system attribute and system class, and several other ones. And so they all have, each of those, obviously has its own, ID number, had the unique key, that's the primary key on the table. So there is a function ID, that's in the database for each of the functions. And so if, I don't think we've come up with a reason yet to show that in the UI anywhere, but certainly that could be a column, that we show on that manage function screen where we have name, description, and then there's like an edit and delete, right? Those 4 are the only columns we show. We could show function ID there, right? We would rather not, because the user doesn't really need to know it, and they can't edit it. There's not really any reason for anybody to see it as far as we can tell. We made it so that the name, I think, column has to be unique, so there shouldn't be 2 functions that have the exact same name. So anyway, that's how all that's built, kind of like you'd think it would probably.
This is Donovan. Can you bring back that query management window? I'd like to see a little bit more of the model. We might have another requirement around the IDs for these records, and there's a few reasons at the lower level would want to do that. You had a screen that was just up. You showed a table. It was a query that brought up some data.
This one?
So Don, I do want to interject on that as well. We do use the function ID as well as the kit ID. It's something that has to be identifiable, because we do use it in the estimating, to make sure that we're using the right piece. And we use it on our drawing package. So, what you're gonna find is a lot of these clients get assigned these functions in these kits. It gives us somewhat of a playbook to know what we're supposed to be using on that client by that ID number. So that ID number is very important.
So we can display it on any documents without it showing up on the UI.
And also, with the, you don't necessarily have to have kind of an ugly ID. If the name is unique, or we could call it anything else we wanted, are we sure we don't want something English readable that would kind of identify which kit we're using in all those other places? Or
Well, there is as far as an architecture is concerned, we have found, because we've been involved with several company integrations, that we found that when we used a company name as a part of a compound key, that we had problems when we had absorbed another company that perhaps used the same part and the same name when we needed to integrate the data. So I just caution that we be careful about how we choose our unique identifiers for these records. And this is for looking forward, is what's going to happen to this data in the future. We don't know. And that's one reason why using GUIDs is a good idea, because then that record is uniquely identified across the universe. And we can move this data from company to company and things like that. So when we use integers and we use identity fields and things like that, we're pinning ourselves down. I would recommend that we not use identity fields when we're dealing with these records, because we also found issues where we're trying to insert and sort and things like that. So I think I'd like to see the overall data model and take a look at it and compare it to what we're doing. I know that you've done a good job. It looks good, except I see that we're kind of pinning ourselves in fundamentally using these primary key integer IDs. That's just a red flag I would raise.
Yep. So I think maybe I just would be interested in, the functionality that we are going for.
Yeah.
What exactly is it that we cannot do here? And see if there's a way. I mean, GUIDs are great, too. You can use GUIDs instead of those, and they're easy to add and all that stuff. But I don't know of a scenario where I would love the idea of somebody copying an ID or a GUID or something and pasting that anywhere else, right, or something into another system. We should hopefully, that's not happening anywhere. But if it does and it needs to, and I don't understand why it needs to, then that's totally possible. But yeah, I mean, I would say I would love it if nobody in the world cared what this stuff is behind the scenes, because they don't have to deal with that stuff.
I would say as a user, so I would not care if I ever saw the GUID, as long as I knew there was a way to assign the kit and function properly to the client, and it was a search engine to get to it every time. Okay.
Right.
And then as long as, because we're not using them on the detail drawings, and they're not used on all client drawings. And I think the GUID part helps us when we export our Excel sheet, our quoting sheet. The GUID is on our quoting sheet. So if something gets lost, someone can grab that sheet and go back and find that kit by just the GUID number.
That's not the GUID. That is a piece of the GUID. It's a combination of
right.
a bunch of different things that go into that number. and it creates a unique number for that kit.
Okay.
It's a combination of
Identifier.
a lot of the GUIDs. I'll put
Yeah,
it
the
that way.
GUID's not gonna mean a lot to the users at all. I'm talking about at an enterprise level, especially a company like ADT who is acquiring businesses and maybe even sell some of its business. So that when we start migrating data from company to company and things and system to system, having the kind of ID scheme that you have that I've saw is pinning us down. My experience with company integrations is that it's not ideal and it can cause problems, especially when you start using text fields as a part of a key.
Yeah, so that's more of a business decision. You know,
Absolutely.
do we want to have two functions with the same name? And so
Yes.
we thought a business requirement to say, no, it doesn't seem like you would.
Well, we did have a situation when we brought in ProTech where they were using, it was Acme or ProTech. They were basically, we had similar businesses, right? We all do card readers and door contacts and things like that. And they have identical names. And it was blowing up my import into our database and saying, you can't have, this is because ASG had made this mistake in their design from way back, is how I know that this could become an issue. And so what we did, we said, okay, well, if it's an Acme part, let's take it up a level. We'll make it the combination, the key will be the combination of the company and the name. Okay, good, because Acme can have ABC door reader and so can ASG. How do you know the difference? Well, what company is it assigned to? And so the question, can we have parts with the same name? Well, no, ideally, if it's just one company, why would you need that? It's when you start moving your data around at an enterprise level where, okay, if you're a mom and pop shop and you don't ever plan on selling and you don't ever plan on moving your data around, that's one thing. But from an architectural standpoint, and the reason why GUIDs have become pervasive in data models is one of the reasons is because it makes data migrations easier. And how you choose your keys will work if everything stays solid and the same and nothing changes. But when you start doing fancy things with your data and integrating with foreign entities and blah, 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 it becomes a problem. Or a challenge, I should say.
So one of the comments you made was that no function would have the same name. We have functions that do have the same name.
Functions or parts.
So because we have functions, because the function is not a specific thing, it's a generic thing the way it works. And then as we drill into the attributes, it gets us into functions that have the right kit assigned to them based upon parts. So functions in our system do have the same names.
What is the purpose of having two functions with the same name?
Yeah, I'd question that as well.
Well, I know we do. I'm just telling you.
Well, I can help answer that because Robert Flynn and I have had this conversation and we've had to accommodate it. And like I said, when we brought in Acme into ASG, they had they were using the same parts as we were using. Their parts were sitting down in California. Ours were sitting up here in Oregon.
So Don,
It's like, okay,
we're talking
so
at a different level. We're talking about the functions, not the
right.
parts.
Well, functions and or parts and things like that. So when we start putting the restriction on the name itself, it can cause a problem because when you're requiring it to be unique, you're saying, okay, for the rest of time, I will never have a need to have the same name. I'm making that assumption, right?
Well, but it's very easy to say you're allowed to duplicate the names of functions or kits. But it seems silly to let people do that. Like, I just don't know why.
Well, it would go in conjunction with some other identifier. So, for instance, Acme has ABC door. So does ASG. Well, how do you know the difference? Because I have another field here that tells me that ABC door belongs to Acme, and this ABC door belongs to ASG.
So I understand.
But it's the same door. It's just you're saying you have one inventory up in Portland and one inventory up in down in California.
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
but that's the inventory depletion. We don't care about that.
Well, I'm just saying, when you look at our data model, we have to be thinking about these things, and I get nervous when we start using things like names and descriptions as a part of a key.
So
Well,
I,
that's the name. I mean, the name and description isn't the key itself in the data model. That's just what users would search by. So if we have something with the same name or description, how would you tell it apart?
Yeah, and if we had a company name or another field or something on a function, right? Well, then it would be different. But no.
It could be a company or it could be a division. It could be a branch.
So we keep track of which kits and functions are sold on each, sale. And so those are associated with the customer ultimately, right? And all that's available in the database. But we don't have a field on the function table itself that says this function is for this customer. We could, but that it didn't seem like a good idea to say.
So isn't that so, Matt? Though, so if we're saying division or whatever the distinguishing factor is, we kind of sort of limit who can see what just in the beginning of the sales process, determining who is the customer type. So if it is regular ADT commercial, if it is CCI or whatever, that could drive what they're even able to search and see, right?
yes, that'd be good.
It could.
Basically, another functionality.
It has to.
So another functionality of this as well is, again, by customer, by end user.
Well, it's
So-
got to be by ADT from the ADT side. It's got to be by office, by region, because we're going to have regions that can't sell certain parts because of
Understood.
agreements. It's got to be driven by customers. We have to have multiple ways to limit the user that comes in. It just can't be the user's name and that's it. There's got to be multiple ways to limit that, because we're going to have offices that don't sell S2 and offices that do sell S2. So,
Yeah, and that's from the materials standpoint. And I know that,
Right.
Radibus and that team is working on that
So-
part.
I guess that I understand the philosophic discussion going on for the back end of the database. I guess what I'd like to see is if we could walk through, if I'm a person who's going to build a functioning kit, how would I do it? And then once I do that, if I come in as the estimating design person, how do I get to finding that and then assign it to a client so that it can be found again easily for that client? That's kind of the process we need to walk through to see if what you've got developed here with the data that we put in there, if this works and what tweaks have to be done. That's what I'm thinking.
Right.
Well, sounds
We also need to use this for a basic salesperson that is trying to find this piece in the system and trying to put it in their proposal.
But I think if we get through my side, we can teach the other side. To a point.
But where does that live? We're in the creation of the kit. We're creating it now.
Well,
We're in the management side. I also want to see the other side.
correct. No, I agree with you. I want to see the creation, so we build it,
Mhm.
and then I want to see the lookup of how it looks up.
Correct.
And then we have to figure out what that permissions on the lookup side would be allowed, because there's certain data they're not going to be allowed to do and see and whatever, because the office they live in, the region they live in, or they're not allowed to build a kit or remove parts from a kit, because a kit is a kit is a kit. It doesn't
Right.
change.
Right. But there's also a process on this that we have to point out. A function gets built first. It's how do you want to operate? So you
Right.
got to find that in the system, or if it's not there, take it back to the department and have them create it.
Correct.
From that time, then they create the parts list that will go on it, or the kit.
Yep.
There's not a drawing made. No drawing is done until it actually sells, and then that's what populates those
Yep.
folders and says, hey, here's a drawing part that goes with it.
Yep. No, agreed.
So there's a whole evolution of this kit.
I would say the good thing is I see a nice GUI. I'd love to walk through from start to finish.
Okay.
I just,
Yeah, we should click through that a little bit here. So, Lauren created a function there a second ago, right? And then on that function admin page, you can filter down on the name or description and edit the function. And then
So can we go back to it? Because I didn't see it. I'll be honest with you.
real quick, you want to go back to that. So just create another one there, Lauren.
Create new function.
Maybe,
type-
yeah. So that obviously the function itself is not too many fields on
And
that.
is the description piece the piece that you're thinking will go into the quote? Or is that just a description within here to tell people more information?
Yeah, we were, the requirements we had said, you know, the description of the function needs to show up on the kit or something. So that's the field we were thinking. Yes.
Okay, so that's the quote field. That's that they could put in their quote to say this is how this is going to work.
Yep.
Okay, fair enough.
So then, you can't, you know, the create kit is pretty similar idea there. Or you can say, of all the kits that are already selected, you know, I want to put this kit that already exists into this new ABC function. You can select it out of there. That's, you know, a pretty long list. If the list is as long as you guys are talking about, we might need to do something quite a bit fancier there.
That's where the equipment has a category and a subcategory, and it can be restricted by that.
Well, this is just kits, so that drop down is just a list of all the kits that we have, and so
Right, and that list will get too long to manage, so like you said, we gotta do something with that.
I would think you would need some type of search engine within that piece to drill in. Yes.
Well,
You can
but
search by anything.
based on what you're trying to do, what category you're working in. You know, you're and I do need to point out that the functions are generic.
Yep.
And the kits are manufacturer specific.
More specific. Yep.
So that's where it comes in. You got to be able to look for, you know, a software house equipment. You got to be able to look for AMAG equipment. You got to be able to look for Axis equipment, whatever manufacturer it is in the kit side.
So one thing you said is category
and subcategory.
Nobody uses that, Robert, just so you know. That's the least of the search criteria.
They don't use it because it doesn't necessarily show up in what they're doing. It's in the system, and it helps build that search criteria.
So it's a back end piece.
It's a back end piece. It's what we can use to filter this part right here when you're looking for a kit. It exists in the parts system.
Yeah.
So we don't currently have any category, nothing is called category and you know, associated with the kit at all. So if we need to put kits into categories or associate them with stuff like we do functions with the attributes and classes thing, you know, that would have to be something that we can add. This little search thing here, obviously you can, you know, if you know any part of the name at all, you can, you know, get to the kit pretty quickly. Anyway, just to kind of try to keep going here, you know, that's how you add an existing kit to functions.
So you create new function, you type in your function, you put in your description, you can create a new kit, and if you click the create new kit button, it takes you to the parts database.
Yep, we haven't got the parts yet, but yes, you create that new kit, type in the name and description, and then I think if you have a function selected over there on the left, then it will also, you know, associate it with that kit. But then once you have a kit selected, the grid at the bottom of the page shows all of the equipment that is in that kit. And so it starts off empty when it's a brand new kit, obviously, and then you can add, you know, click that add equipment button at the bottom like Lauren just did, select whichever equipment it is you want, and add it to that kit. So if you don't have a kit selected on the right there, then that equipment list at the bottom does not show up. That equipment list at the bottom is for the selected kit, you know, the one you're working with right now.
Okay.
And so the remove button there obviously, removes it from the kit. So what we don't have at all now, it sounds like something I don't think we had that written down, was the thing about when the kits need to go read only, right? You're saying, hey, we really can't let people change them.
Yeah, when a
Yeah.
function is built, it should be read only. When a kit is built, it is read only, because that becomes a history, because we've now associated that with a client, and we don't want someone to go in and change that kit and then have an estimator go in and choose the kit again because they know that's the one they want and there's different parts in it.
Okay.
It's got to lock down. And then if
So
the kit, let's say, if the kit has a part that goes bad, that is end of life, we need to be able to historically save that kit, but not allow it to be used again.
And we basically create a new kit.
We create a new kit to replace it.
Gotcha.
Okay.
So on the when they go read only, obviously we have an edit button there, next to our functions. Do we want to get rid of that as soon as that function or kit has been used on any sale? Is that when it should go read only? Like, obviously, if I misspelled ABC, I want to be able to change it.
So my question would be, can you track when it's used on a sale?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, that's fantastic, because we can't right now.
We do. We definitely track when it's used on a sale, but what I don't track is when it actually gets installed.
Oh, okay. So I would say if it's used on no, I think once it's built, it's built. There's no edit. There's no edit. It's either inactive and a new one's built. You don't edit.
But like you said, you gotta be able to fix a spelling error or something along those lines.
Yeah, I guess that criteria of if it gets on a sale, I'm good with.
Mm-hmm.
I just would have. I'm just thinking if they change it before it sells, but that's a pretty quick turnaround probably in most type of things. So I like that as a requirement.
I think it's in, we got to pick the right people that can do an edit on the kit.
I think
I'll put it that way.
So on these edit and delete buttons, we can have permissions of who can do that, correct? It's not the whole world, right?
Right. So this admin screen here, this manage kits and functions, there is an employee role, I think, that you have to be in to see this. And if you're not, then you don't. So I think the original thing we saw was, I'm not sure it was right, but it was something like, the sales reps can edit any of these anytime they want or something. It didn't sound exactly right, but it sounds like you're saying not everybody not every sales rep is going to be in that managed kits and functions role.
Not at all. We have people that, so we have admin level people in the kits and functions and in the kits and functions permissions. And then you have users in it, and then you have read only.
Yep. So, and only the admins get to do this, and that's very limited. Because what we found when we build the functions is people want to do it their own way. And you have to have some methodology on the way you're building things, or else it just becomes just crap,
Yeah, makes sense.
Total junk. So yeah, so I think the edit, I don't think you should have a delete button. I think you need to change that to inactive, because we don't want to delete a function that's been built ever, or we don't want to delete a kit that's been built ever. We want to make it inactive.
Is it possible that, so I think that's a different thing. It sounds like we need an inactive, so we're saying we don't want this to show up anymore. But this delete would be the same as editing. Like, I created one called ABC on there as, I created ABC yesterday. I don't need this one. Nobody's used it yet. It would only be available when, nobody's used this thing. And so
the delete would go away again once the thing's sold.
Yes.
Exactly. Okay, I'm good so far. You're talking the right stuff. I'm good.
It's actually once it's been added to a quote. So the quote doesn't even have to sell.
Yeah, once it's been added to a quote, that's a better way to go, because we don't know how long the sale could take, but once it's been added to a quote assigned. I think on both of those, edit and delete would be both of those.
Good. That'll go away. And so then it sounds like we don't have anything related to this. We don't want anybody to use this function anymore. We obviously can't delete it, and so we need to make it not show up. And so that's like a new thing we need on both the function and the kit. And then select.
You should be able to edit
So
functions.
we don't have, I don't believe, Dawn, I don't know, we don't have functions going inactive.
No,
We have
we never,
kits that
we
go
never
in-
inactivate the
Right,
function.
so we don't need it inactive for the function, we need inactive for the kits.
Kit, because the kits are the thing that can change.
Yeah.
The part goes obsolete.
Yeah.
And so what we do when we inactivate a kit is we turn it a color to let them know that there's a problem with it.
You can't use it anymore. And it can come off the list, so we make it so that they're always, when they log in, they're in an active list. And if they want to see inactive kits for that client, they can click it and those inactive ones will show up in a different color. So they can say, oh, that was done in the past. Okay, got it. Here's a replacement part for that.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
So that's like when you're looking at we haven't got to this page yet, but when you're a sales rep and you're selecting which kit you want to add to this sale, and you say, well, I usually only want to see the active ones that I'm allowed to sell, but you're saying being able to say, oh, show me all the inactive ones too, just in case, I want to see what they are or whatever, and then, but they're not allowed to actually use them.
Correct.
Okay.
And then, as well as, I'm probably jumping ahead, but what you just said is, you've gone in, you've looked at this generic system, and you've decided that you're going to use this kit for a client. We have to have a way to assign that kit to the client. So there's a table we can go back into and say what kits have been assigned to this client.
Right.
Because that will save us time in the future. We can drill right to the client in the system somehow and pull up all those kits.
So, and not only that, we have an approved parts list for all of our clients by using that functionality.
Okay.
That is something that we commonly use. We need to make sure that, hey, this client only gets these
So
parts.
he's got it. That's cool. So this is your list of kits that have been assigned to a client.
Yeah.
And so it pops up and it shows you what you got.
Right. So for every, for this customer, on the left there's a list of customers where it says customer name. Then you can kind of expand the customer and get a list of all of the mastermind sites for that customer.
Okay.
Select that site. Then over there on the right is kind of a bunch of information about that site. One of the things we added was that kits and functions, so that we would be able to show you, this is the kit I sold on this sale, for this, customer and site.
Fantastic. Fantastic. I love it.
So it sounded like there might be some reporting, that maybe would need to be done over this kind of data. I mean, that's obviously in there and in the system, and there might be some cases where you guys say, hey, I really need a report on, I don't know what, all the different times, I've used this part, or I don't know, something, but I'm not sure we have all that figured out and nailed down, but certainly the data's in there, and we can have reports created for, whatever is needed over that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we'll just, we look for things like, what of the kits we have in there, which ones have a drawing in them? So we're going to want to be able to look at things like that. What's a parts list for this client? What is a functions list for this client?
So I don't know how the network architecture of ADT is, let's say. So I have somebody in Beaverton, Oregon, who is in the functions and kit system, and they're picking stuff, and there's drawings stored. Are those stored local in Beaverton, or are those stored at a major complex somewhere in the world?
That hasn't been figured out yet.
Because some of
That's
those,
something we're talking about tomorrow.
because to embed, because we definitely want to have drawings associated with kits and associated with parts to speed up our design process, as well as for salespeople to literally print out a PDF of what that thing looks like and be able to hand it to someone to get it installed, to help all field operations.
So everything is pretty much templated. You've got a baseline drawing for every kit out there. Everyone that's been installed. So it makes it easier to reproduce the drawing set that goes out to a project.
Yep.
They could literally they could print out most of the kits on a job. And understand, not everything that's quoted is in a kit.
Correct. Not
So there can be, you know, certain parts that, you know, don't belong to a kit that are estimated.
but
But the majority of the stuff does have a kit back behind it that has a drawing.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that way we don't have to redraw every time we get a new job. We've already got it. It's done.
Because one thing that's a little different about us and then the national accounts is our the enterprise level client or these corporate clients, there's a drawing for every single building, every single job, every single door ad we do. There's a drawing package built, updated, maintained, and resubmitted to them. It's a requirement by a lot of the larger clients. So, and so that's kind of how this is where we put the drawings. So we didn't have another storage location where we had to go find a GUID and search into there. So this is how we did it.
We actually created a folder that's tied to every single part and every single kit. So, and that's where that drawing part lives, as well as every end user has a site folder for all of their sites. And in that is an as-built, a current as-built of what the site has.
Yeah.
And at the site level, we also have a reference to, again, every kit and every function that's been sold to that site. So when somebody comes to do another estimate on the site, doing an add to it, they can see what's been sold in the past. It prevents us from, you know, there's so many variations of a card reader that are out there. You need to make sure that you're selling the same card reader that you sold last time to that client to make sure it works on their system.
Okay. So we do have the document upload, you know, on the customer and sales agreement and site and, you know, job levels in Sales Pilot. So they, you know, today upload, you know, whatever documents there are. One of them's drawings. I can't remember which level they upload those to. So as for the particular sale, like on this, or for this particular customer, here's the document I want to associate. Those can all be done today. And then the kit, we added the ability to have a file uploaded for each piece of equipment so that those are associated. It looks like, well, at least we can't find our ability to upload documents for kit, so we will get that added. And so then we'll kind of have a way to associate, you know, any file you want with all the things.
So in your conversation, you're talking about uploading into it, but what about the repository to when I've chosen this kit, I can download that drawing? That's
right. Yeah, those should show up right in the grid, you know, right in the application here. So when you are on the select kits page, you know, you should be able to say, you know, show me, you know, what files are there that are uploaded for this kit, and it should all have them all, you know, listed out.
And then you could grab those.
That's where we store PDFs, a hardening guide. There's a whole bunch of information that goes in these kits.
Cool. No, this is.
And if we can get to that, all the files that are associated with that, that's fine. I'll be able to download them. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I have a question on the kits. I know that the kits get locked down, but let's say I want to recreate a kit that already exists. I'm going to change about 25% of the contents of the kit. Can I do it like an inheritance where I say, I want to start with this kit that's already locked down. I'm going to modify it. I'm going to take all the documents and all the stuff that pre-exists with this kit that's locked down, and then I'm going to take it somewhere else. I'm going to modify it and save it as a different kit. That way I'm saving steps with having to repackage all these documents and things like that.
Yeah, we do not have, those would be something like a copy kit, and then you rename it and stuff. And
it assigns a new ID to it.
Geez, man, that would be awesome, because we don't have that, and that's the biggest complaint I get from the guy that manages the kits and function system is I got to start from scratch again.
Yeah. Probably. I don't think we have that, and so we could put that on our dev list. We tend to, not obviously for stuff that gets used by one person, those things have to get prioritized lower than the stuff that affects everybody, right?
Okay.
But doesn't mean we can't put it on the list, and we'll just get to it as soon as we can.
Well,
Yeah, I think it's just a return on investment, right? How often are we needing to leverage that scenario?
no,
And
I-
another thing I heard earlier, I think somebody said that the functions, we don't inactivate functions. I've just looked in CV and we do have an inactivate functions checkbox. I don't know if it's used, but it is there. So you can inactivate a function.
I think what that's for, Don, to be honest with you, is because we don't have a delete button, and I think that's what they use it for. Is when they've screwed up and they've typed it wrong and saved it, they inactivate it because they can't fix it again.
Okay. Yeah.
Because we don't have a delete button. So
Right.
if there was if with what they have with this edit and this delete until it's used and then it becomes in there forever, I'm good with that.
Yeah, that would work.
So good point out, Don. But yeah, I think that's what it's used for, is to hide it because we made a mistake.
Yeah.
Good.
Sure.
So on the on that select kits page there again, Lauren, if you don't mind going back there one more time, that we kind of have the tree view here built with the functions at the top. So there's that APT function that we just created a minute ago, and so then all the kits that are in that function show up underneath it.
Beautiful.
Then when you expand a kit, it shows you all the equipment that is in that kit is the next level. And then the equipment, if you expand it, is all the documents. So I think most of our equipment currently doesn't have any, documents. We probably, if you mouse over that little eye there, it says there are no documents, no files. But I think it turns a different color when there is one. I think it becomes blue or something.
So can you go up one level? Can you go back to the 16 door level?
Yeah.
So can we have that same thing there? And that's how you know if there's a document for that kit?
Yes, that's what we need to add. I think that was in the original requirements, and I am not sure why we don't have that done. But yes, we
Darn.
surely have a way to upload files for a kit. So I'm not quite sure how to look on this page because, for the equipment one, we did kind of a whole nother level, right? But we already have a level underneath kit. So anyway, I'm not quite sure how to work out in UI, but we'll figure it out.
Yeah, as long as it's there and people know how to use it, that's what it is. So
Yeah.
And I know that Radimus in his part side definitely has a place that he stores documents, PDFs, cut sheets on whatever in that database. So I don't know how the Sales Pilot database stores it.
Yep, it is separate. So we, unfortunately don't look at their stuff. So that stuff, the equipment files are managed by the people that edit the equipment in Sales Pilot here. We very likely are gonna do a little bit more syncing between Sales Pilot equipment and what happens in Oracle, going forward. But so not today. So unfortunately, they'll probably say something like, "Okay, here's the files we have for this equipment in Oracle. Go upload them in Sales Pilot." And it'll be a little bit manual.
But understand the future is we can't even order a piece of equipment if it's not an Oracle.
Right. Yeah. So that's kind of a new thing too. That's not how it works today. That is changing with all this. Is we basically, I think, are more or less removing the add new equipment button in Sales Pilot. Right. You can't really even do it, and we will go get that out of we'll get the equipment out of Oracle instead. I forget the details on that's. We do have a project with that with the Oracle team that's supposed to get done. CD1. Yes, so that stuff is in order. I don't think we have a, what file do you have for this thing? Like so far, it's just equipment database fields like the just equipment description and those kind of things. But if the files are the same and somebody's having to manually upload them in Sales Pilot again, and now we have 2 copies of them, floating around, maybe we can prove that some way.
Yeah, there should only be, for one piece of equipment, there should only be one file.
Yeah. Ideally, yeah. I don't know where they store their files or really anything about Oracle. So unfortunately, Can't promise I can go point at their file, but it seems like it should be possible.
So, based on today's conversation, this is looking pretty good. It's looking like it has the levels that we need, to get things done. I have a gentleman who unfortunately is on vacation today and is back next week. Is there any way to set up a abbreviated demo with less people that we could just walk through and say, click, 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 what did we miss? And maybe give us any other insights, because he uses it every day.
Yep. Nope. That sounds great. We can do this again. I think Stefan has recorded this, and so if he wants to sit through all this, he's certainly welcome to. So Stefan can probably hand that out after the call, and then I've got a few notes here of things we need to add that I'll send out after this meeting. We'll kind of get on our dev list here. And then this is available. So this is in the sales pilot test 2.protection1.com. So any ADT full-time employee, if you have an AD, if you're in ADT Oracle and you have an AD account, anybody can log in here. And so we certainly would love it. I mean, at some point here, we would like to put this in production. There really isn't any reason, as far as I know, to wait for this particular feature until CD1, when everything else goes live. There won't be any set up unless you tell us to set them up, automatically or something. But we'd like to put it in as soon as you guys are happy with it.
So, Lauren, is this the login I have?
I gave you a test login. Yep, you can use that.
Okay, so I'll give that to the team and have them start poking around.
Because I have an ADT laptop, so I can go in.
Yeah, but you don't even need it. This is web.
It's all web? Okay.
It's all web, so I've got a way to get in.
Because actually the structure looks good. The way it cascades down looks good. Just want to spend a little more time click, click, click and saying, yeah, I got it. But for the most part, with the data in it, it's...
Yeah, the only thing, again, we still need to surface an ID of some sort. And again, if we change the IDs from where we are now, that might be a bit of a problem. So
yeah, I might just need to understand a little bit more about where those get used, kind of outside the system here. Where do they show up, and where do they, get, what functionality they serve and all that. Maybe that would help me understand.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Well, where they use them, the biggest part where they use them is when a quote goes out and comes back, the designers have to have somewhere to know where to go grab that drawing, because we don't build the drawing until the job is sold. Because these are heavy construction drawings and stuff. Mm-hmm. And the details are, how this part mounts to an actual box in a sheetrocked wall, and there could be with conduit, without conduit, all these different factors that could affect how that part gets mounted. Mm-hmm. So the designer, once the job sells, it goes to an engineer who tries to get some of those details with the construction plan, and they use those numbers to identify which drawing the designer grabs and basically copy pastes or copy modifies and pastes into the drawing set. That's where it's at. So it's not on the sales side or on the estimating side. It's once we get to the engineered part.
Right, but if it's already engineered though, that's where again, it's already done. That's how you tell the designer which one to get into that drawing.
Well, the question would be this, is do we have an output maybe of the kits that are assigned to a job that got sold? Do we have an output that can be given? See, that's where we need the identifying factor, because the designer needs to be able to go back and retrace the steps.
Yeah, he needs to know what the estimator's estimating.
Yeah,
it's a lobby door at Nike. What is a lobby door? What's the number that we put on the lobby door at Nike?
It's that retracing.
And right now, we use the same lobby door ID or an IDF door or a parking lot camera at Nike. It's always the same number.
So that's the detective work, is after the sale, to go back and construct and use these.
Well, but if it's used in the estimating side, then you have it.
Correct.
And that's the way it
Well, I
works.
just want to give them an idea of where we use it from.
Right.
Because I think the
It
connection.
starts at the estimate and goes all the way
Right,
through.
it's the connection of why do you need it, and that's the why, it's that engineering piece at the
Right,
end.
so it's gonna be a problem again. This is how we do it now, and these are the numbers we use right now. It will be a problem to change those numbers.
Yeah, well, because I don't want to go into.
Because we'll have no idea of knowing what we should be selling to Nike again,
Well, I don't
or
wanna-
Microsoft,
I
or
don't want
Amazon.
to, I don't want to have a designer have to go back into Sales Pilot to go look stuff. I want to have them a different way
Correct.
into these drawings. So that's another thing we need to think about is,
How does this port over to JMT?
how's that report over to JMT or something to where they can get back into these kits to pull the drawings out of.
Right, this
Yeah.
has to go over to JMT. So when the project manager or the design team is managing that job, what was actually estimated in that job?
Well, I
And they
think-
need to go find it.
I like what we got so far.
Right.
I like step one is really, really looking good. So,
Good. I'm glad. We appreciate the feedback. On that JMT piece, we should definitely get Dave. Dave Hansen is the JMT guy, and so he may have plans for that or not or something. But certainly, we Sales Pilot and JMT talk to each other, and I have no idea if he has any thoughts on that or not. We should probably talk to that with him. Worst case, there's a link, from JMT, back to the direct, right to the page, where you can, view the kits that were sold on that job, in Sales Pilot and click download the documents, for that.
And then database wise, mastermind wise, there has to be a link to the site as well. So again, that's how we manage all these drawing packages. They're managed at a site level. Because
Okay.
understand, we're a little different where we do repeat business over and over again with the same clients and a lot of times on the same site.
Mhm.
We've been doing business with Nike since 1986. And so a lot of these buildings have been remodeled, 30 times. And, we can have 4 or 5 jobs going on in the same building at the same time. But it all comes back to one as-built drawing because that's the way the client wants to see it.
Huh, yeah. We do, obviously we talk to Mastermind, and if you sell to an existing site in here, and when you select an existing site, you get all the documents, that were, uploaded for that site previously. And when we create sites in Mastermind, we, put links into Mastermind to the documents that were uploaded in Sales Pilot. So there's a doc storage table that, allows you to kind of link to documents from Mastermind. That's all there. So some of that might
So
work.
is Sales Pilot this proposal linked to the site?
Yes. So on this, that's kind of the base functionality here. There's a site information screen here, and the main thing that you do there is type in the information about the site and select the existing site from Mastermind if it's existing. So if you know the Mastermind site number, you type that in, right? Or if you know the anything else, address or the city, state, zip, all that kind of stuff. And so then you select that existing Mastermind site on this screen, and it downloads, a bunch of information from Mastermind about that site that we might need for the sale. If it's an existing site, a lot of the information in Sales Pilot can't be edited. You're not allowed to change the site address from Sales Pilot on an existing site. If you want to change that, it needs to be done, through the normal process in Mastermind. But yeah, all that functionality here. The existing customers, it works exactly the same way. We do connect with both P1 and ADT, MMB, to allow you to select existing customers out of either system and keep remembers which one it came out of, all that kind of stuff.
There should be a document location at that site level as well as the client level.
There is,
Right.
there's an upload document under each section.
Okay, and it's not restricted to type? You can upload almost anything?
I
No.
think
We have an other.
Is there another? Okay. So there's kind of the document code that matches the doc codes table in Mastermind. So we, because we're going to put these into Mastermind in the doc storage table, we have to have that link there. But yeah, if there's an other, you can do that. And then the kinds of files that you're allowed to upload, I think we stopped some of the obvious no-nos like .exe or something, right? But otherwise, I think it's pretty open.
Okay, so within our infrastructure, this made it a lot easier because understand, we can have a heck of a lot of documents at the site level and at the client level and at the project level. We actually have a folder structure.
Yep.
So,
Okay.
so we can organize it,
Okay.
because it gets, it can get messy really quick.
Yeah.
And,
Well-
and if you have a folder structure, now you know where the document is going to be every single time that you're looking for.
Yeah. So we try, to have that in the UI here. So if you find that, you can search, for a customer site or job number or any of those things from, the dashboard and select any sale that you want. And then, go to this documents page and it shows you all of the documents for that customer site or job. So yeah, I think we should have most of that covered here. But yeah, you could try that stuff all out and see what questions you have to see if there's any parts of that are missing or need to be improved or whatever.
Okay.
But I am out of time here, unfortunately.
It's been good.
So I will try to finish typing up these notes that I have for some of the things that we definitely need to do. And Stefan, will you make this recording available? Oh, he's got us on hold here. So all I am, Stefan, make sure he gets this put somewhere everybody can get to it.
Cool. Thank you.
Awesome.
Well, thanks a lot for your time, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Did you hang up?